A neighborhood transformed into a crime scene. We begin with developing news in Richmond Hill. 2 bodies found inside a home. Homicide investigators descending on a sleepy street. Good evening. The outside of that property blocked off by police tape.
What happened inside? Now the question detectives will need to answer, and those living in the area are rattled. CTV's Mike Walker is live at the scene near North Lake Road and Bayview Avenue with more. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, as you can see, police continue to hold the scene here. York Regional Police were called to the home for a welfare check. That's when they say officers discovered 2 people dead inside the residence. Now, police were initially called to the home near Bayview, North Lake Road around 11:30 Monday morning. The homicide unit has taken over the investigation, but at this point have not released the cause of death for both individuals. However, investigators say it appears to be an isolated incident. At this point, police are not releasing the identity of the 2 people and their relationship to one another. Here's more from York Regional Police.
The homicide unit has been engaged, so the deaths are considered suspicious and not natural. We do feel that the incident appears to be isolated, and we do not believe there's any threat to public safety. At this time, investigators are working closely with the chief coroner to determine the cause of death, and that won't be known until postmortems have been completed in the coming days.
Now, this is a quiet residential street next to Wilcox. Like, we did speak with a couple of neighbors who didn't want to appear on camera. They tell us that a husband and wife, believed to be a retired couple, lived in the home. They are now in shock and struggling to grasp what has happened here, seeing the heavy police presence in their neighborhood over the last 24 hours. Now, police tell us once the cause of death is known, that will determine the next steps of their investigation. Reporting live in Richmond Hill, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Fatal gun violence once again rocking Toronto. A man in his 20s shot and killed outside a home right in the heart of the city.
Neighbors woken up by a terrifying sound of a weapon being fired, a sound becoming all too familiar. CTV's John Musselman is on Lansdowne Avenue near College Street with more. John.
And neighbors tell us, Michelle, that what this began as some type of confrontation on a front porch of the home behind me, and the man was shot and landed on the street. The shooting happened just before 2 a.m. outside a home on Lansdowne Avenue, just north of College Street. Police responded to reports of gunshots. When they arrived on the scene, they found a man in his 20s suffering from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to hospital, but he did not survive.
A second male was had attended the hospital, also suffering from gunshot wounds, non-life-threatening, and we're in the process of trying to determine if there's any direct connection to this particular homicide.
Police sealed off a section of Lansdowne. There is limited information on suspects. This woman lives across the street. She did not want to appear on camera, but she calls the gun violence frightening, telling CTV News she has a 3-year-old son.
Pretty shocked because this is just like, I think, 50 meters from my kid's bedroom. And I'm terribly shocked, actually. I'm still processing this.
For it to happen in your backyard like that, definitely, it's alarming.
Evidence markers have been placed on the street. A pair of red Crocs were also visible near a car. Police later removed a vehicle on a flatbed truck for further examination. A neighbor who did not want to appear on camera says she heard at least 2 shots ring out, and it appeared to have started with a dispute on the front porch of a home.
Is that anyone who may find anything discarded near their house that might be of concern? Cameras of always importance. If anyone in this area has some cameras, take a look to see if it catches anything unusual or anything along the street here is obviously of great importance to notify the Toronto Police.
Police have not released the name of the man who was killed.
And the home remains sealed off at this hour. And as we mentioned, police are still investigating here, but we do not know the identity of the man who was shot. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Straight ahead, questioning a law designed to protect the public from aggressive panhandling, putting that enforcement on trial.
But first, there's a live look at the city as the sun sets. We had a sunny, beautiful day and a beautiful sunset as well. Temperatures still climbing later this week with a bit of rain ahead, but still no snow. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jessica.
It will be a beautiful evening ahead of us. Another one above seasonal, very light cloud cover. And as we head into the end of the week, it only gets warmer. We could break a temperature record as we head in towards Friday. But as we get through our day today, it's still relatively mild. We're holding on right around 1 to 3 degrees right around the Golden Horseshoe. A little cooler the further east you go when you factor in the bit of a wind chill. Now, as we head through the island over towards Pearson, we're at a 1 apiece. Very, very light winds. They've been light from start to finish throughout the day today. Tonight, dropping down to -3. It'll feel like -5 again. Heading into the day tomorrow, another brilliantly sunny day, but that changes as we head in towards the end of the week. Those details coming up.
All right, thank you, Jess.
The happenings at Toronto City Hall are in the spotlight for many locals right now. Property taxes are on the minds of most ahead of a vote on the new budget.
But the mayor and councillors also have no shortage of other work on their agenda. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live at City Hall with more. Raheem.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, it's been 4 years since the Rapid TO Surface Transit Network Plan was developed and only one route has been implemented. But after a day of debate, the mayor's motion to get more TTC buses moving faster received the green light.
As part of her vision to make Toronto more transit friendly, Mayor Olivia Chow is trying to get her own councillors on board.
But if we can get more riders onto the bus by speeding up the bus and getting them unstuck from being jammed up in traffic.
The mayor wants to accelerate the Rapid TO Surface Transit Network Plan. 20 roadways have already been identified as a priority, beginning with Eglinton Avenue East, Jane Street, Steeles Avenue, and Victoria Park Avenue. Those roads would see red lanes dedicated for TTC buses and intersection signal improvements, similar to one that's already in operation in Scarborough on Eglinton Avenue East.
I really find it troubling when someone says, oh, it's a 5 or 10 minute delay, don't worry about it. That means a misconnection. That could mean not being able to go to college all day and then get to your part-time job at night.
Though other councillors feel the mayor is waging a war against drivers.
I have to wonder how much benefit is being brought by these lanes compared to the enormous cost and the pressure that it's going to put on the automobile drivers that are stuck with the one remaining lane on the street.
I'm not necessarily convinced that Rapid TO in every instance is actually going to alleviate congestion. I think in some instances it might make it worse.
However, councillor and TTC board chair Jamal Myers feels his colleagues continue to push the issue since the plan was first developed back in 2019.
Councillor Bradford has been here for almost 5 years, so why hasn't he done anything to do that, and including some time on the TTC board? Look, we need to get moving with these things. People are tired of these endless reports.
Motion 6 carries. The vote is 22-4.
And with that, the mayor's motion passes, meaning accelerated timeframes for the feasibility, design, and implementation of Rapid TO projects.
These lanes have been promised as far back as 2020, and it's important that they move forward, and it's great that Toronto City Council has moved forward today to make sure that we get paint on the ground as soon as possible.
Based on current timelines, Jane Street could see the approved changes by the end of the year.
As for other issues, the city also adopted a municipal foreign home buyers tax of 10%. That's going to take effect in January 2025. The city estimates it will generate $15 million in the first year. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Raheem. To the courts next, where a judge is hearing a constitutional challenge of a law restricting panhandling in many public places.
But advocates say it's grown into something that unfairly targets the poor. CTV's John Woodward is live with more. Hey, John.
Hey, Michelle. Over in court, we heard lawyers battle it out over the big picture, but we took the question down here to the streets to hear how these panhandling tickets impact the panhandlers themselves. Damien McIver has been panhandling in Toronto for 2 months and says he needs the money he makes on Dundas Street to make it through the winter.
Now that it's cold, there's many more things that I have to purchase, like clothing, sleeping bags, just things to keep warm.
He says he tries to follow Ontario's Safe Streets Act, which makes it illegal to solicit aggressively or in many public places, including bus stops and near ATMs. Maximum punishments, $500 for a first offense and $1,000 or 6 months in jail for subsequent offenses.
That would be an entire welfare check and then some.
Pretty bad. 26-year-old Corey told us from his spot on Victoria Street there's no way he could pay for the tickets he got for panhandling. Thankfully, he had family.
My uncle came down and paid my ticket.
It's experiences like Corey's that have lawyers for advocacy group Fair Change challenging the constitutionality of the Safe Streets Act in Superior Court this week. According to Fair Change, over a 10-year period, the Toronto police issued over 67,000 tickets, which would have totaled $4 million in fines, but they collected just over $8,000.
It targets the most vulnerable people in society, panhandlers, people just begging for change.
The act doesn't reduce the behavior, lawyers said, pointing to one individual who had over 200 tickets.
The Safe Streets Act criminalizes people for living in poverty and asking for what they need in order to survive.
The law already faced a court challenge along similar lines in the 2000s, and it was upheld then. McIver says he'd welcome loosened restrictions, but says the real solution to this issue is to make panhandling less necessary.
There needs to be more resources to actually get people out of shelters and into housing.
Housing that would be worth more to him than anything he gets from strangers.
Lawyers faced a grilling from Justice Robert Senta, who said if this law even prevents some aggressive panhandling, why should he be the one to toss it out? The lawyers argued this law hurts more than it helps. The case continues over several days this week. Reporting live, I'm John Woodward. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, John. Coming up, a stolen truck tracked by the owner, but it's gone. Why police say they couldn't help.
Britain's Prime Minister says King Charles' cancer was caught early.
That encouraging news came as the monarch's younger son arrived for a visit, and the king was seen in public. CTV's Jill Makishan reports.
For the first time since his cancer diagnosis went public, King Charles was seen in the motorcade waving at crowds gathered at Buckingham Palace. This news that has shocked the world appears to have also shocked his family. Arriving on a red-eye flight from the United States, Prince Harry was whisked to the King's home in the back of a black SUV. The visit between father and son said to be the first in months. It was only yesterday the palace made the announcement. 75-year-old King Charles III has cancer. The type has not been revealed. This is the second public diagnosis for the king in recent weeks. He left hospital only last Monday following a procedure for an enlarged prostate.
The palace has been remarkably open here because in the previous reign, getting information about people's health was quite difficult.
On early morning radio, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said he is in regular contact with the king.
This has been caught early, and now everyone will be wishing him that he gets the treatment that he needs and makes a full recovery.
Downing Street later clarified the Prime Minister was simply noting the swift intervention of the King's medical team. Less than 2 years on the throne, King Charles will need to step back from public life, focusing on his core constitutional duties. William, the Prince of Wales, is expected to take on a greater role for his father, along with Queen Camilla. Catherine, Princess of Wales, is still recovering from recent abdominal surgery.
Prince William has not yet issued a statement on his father's diagnosis, and while there is speculation of a royal reconciliation in the family, it is unclear if the two princes will meet at all during this trip. Jill Makishan, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The Calgary Stampede has agreed to pay $9.5 million in damages as part of a class action lawsuit. It alleges the organization allowed a performance school staffer to sexually abuse young boys. Philip Harima received a 10-year prison term in 2018. He pleaded guilty to charges including sexual assault, sexual exploitation, child pornography, and luring. Harima has admitted to using his position to groom 6 boys into sexual relationships dating back to 1992. The Stampede admitted to negligence and breach of duty in the lawsuit. The deal is subject to court approval.
A Palestinian Canadian reported missing in Gaza last month has surfaced. Mansour Shoman contacted his family yesterday and posted a video of himself online.
We were surprised to see several drones at low altitudes right above us. And immediately snipers started to shoot, and an advancement of army, tanks, firefighters, etc. started to come into the area, attacking the civilians on the ground there. We had to run for cover, and for the last 2 weeks, we have been going from house to house.
The citizen journalist says he and a group of volunteers left a hospital in Khan Yunis without their phones to visit a nearby tent and came under Israeli fire. Shimon has been documenting the humanitarian crisis in Gaza when he lost contact with his family and colleagues on January 21st. They were originally told by witnesses he'd been taken into custody by Israeli forces.
Israel says 31 of the 136 remaining hostages in Gaza are dead. The captives were taken during the October 6th Hamas attack that killed 1,200 people. A deal may be in the works to free the rest of the hostages and pause the fighting. Hamas has delivered its response to a proposed ceasefire agreement, and that response is being evaluated by the Israelis. No details have been disclosed, but the deal was drawn up more than a week ago by U.S. and Israeli officials and a meeting with the Egyptians and Qataris.
We absolutely need to get the hostage deal. This hostage deal would, of course, allow hostages to be released, more humanitarian aid going in, but also having Hamas lay down its weapons. And we hope that from that moment that there is that hostage deal, which will lead to, of course, a truce of a couple of days, we hope a couple of weeks, we can lead then to a sustainable ceasefire, which will stop, of course, the escalation in the region, but the war.
Meanwhile, Canada sanctioned nearly a dozen militants in response to the Hamas attack in Israel that started the war. Canadians are now barred from financial dealings with 10 people linked to Hamas, including senior leaders and the military leader of the Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad.
The federal government has granted Nova Scotia's request for help after a major snowstorm pummeled parts of the province over the weekend.
People are stuck in their homes. The worry and the panic is setting in. So many people, for a multitude of reasons, they're unable to get through the snow on their own. So that human resources, that those people that will be able to actually go and help dig people out is it's the most important thing right now.
The cleanup could take days after up to 150 centimeters of snow fell in areas of Cape Breton. The government is asking people there to stay off the roads as more equipment is being brought in. That includes snow removal machines and helicopters, in addition to help from the Red Cross.
In Southern California, the threat is not over following one of the worst storms there ever. The slow-moving storm that blew in on Sunday could still produce fierce downpours in Los Angeles. The city received more than half the amount of rain it typically gets in a season in just 2 days. There were also nearly 400 mudslides in the area. The storm is being blamed for the deaths of 4 people. Back-to-back atmospheric rivers have hit the state in recent days.
In Washington, a federal court panel has rejected Donald Trump's claim that he is immune from prosecution. The appeals court says the former president can face trial on charges he plotted to overturn the results of the 2020 election. It decided he can be prosecuted for actions taken while in the White House and in the run-up to the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. The case will remain paused until at least Monday to give Trump time to appeal the ruling.
A door panel that flew off a Boeing 737 MAX 9 jet last month appeared to be missing 4 key bolts. The National Transportation Safety Board released a preliminary report today. It focused on how the plug could have detached from the new Alaska Airlines operated flight on January 5th. The report raises questions about who initially installed the bolts. The Federal Aviation Administration grounded 171 of the planes after the incident. No Canadian airlines fly the MAX 9.
Back in this province 25 years later and still no answers. Tonight, new appeals from loved ones of an Ontario woman found murdered back in 1999. CTV's Sean Irvine reports.
A single balloon bobs in the wind on this property just north of St. Thomas. It is a symbol of remembrance for a crime that took place here a quarter of a century ago.
As it's been 25 years, I don't forget. None of us forget.
Wanda Smith is the sister of Wendy Haveron. On February 2, 1999, Wendy and her common-law husband, Roger Smith, were murdered. Initially, it was thought they died in a fire in their home on Wellington Road South in Southwold Township.
Smoke and flame coming out of the front part of the house, the front room of the house where the main part of the fire was.
But soon after the flames were extinguished, investigators determined the fire was deliberately set to cover up a murder. Wanda would soon learn from police a terrifying revelation, that her sister and her partner had been beaten to death with a baseball bat.
That just really hit home. My sister was 89 pounds. There's no way she could fight off something like that.
Looking back at happier times in a scrapbook she made shortly after the murders, Wanda hopes for a break in the case.
The only thing the OPP do tell us is that they think that they're on the right track of who the suspects are, but there's just not enough evidence to put them there.
Police will not comment on any new clues, but they're asking for the public's help.
So any piece of information that an individual may have, even if they believe it to be insignificant, could make a huge difference in our investigation.
The province continues to offer a $50,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest and conviction in this case.
It's just hard to know that there's somebody out there that has done this and has been free all this time, and yet we suffer for it.
Anyone with information is asked to contact Elgin OPP or Crime Stoppers. Near St. Thomas, Sean Irvin, CTV News.
Next to an infuriating story for anyone who had their vehicle stolen. It happened to a man near Ottawa.
But he had some hope tracking it to the port of Montreal. But now he can't understand why police didn't move in. CTV's Jackie Perez reports.
Here's the app right now.
Thanks to his Apple AirTag, Mark Roos knows where his stolen 2021 Dodge Ram TRX is.
It pinged in the port of Montreal.
His $135,000 truck was taken in the middle of the night from his Gatineau home back in January. But there was hope when 2 weeks later, the alert popped up. His hopes were quickly dashed. Gatineau police telling him
They said they can't do anything because it is inside the port. Even though we gave an exact location and a screenshot sent to them, they said they have to notify port authorities and that they might not be able to do anything about it.
Late today, Canada Border Services Agency told CTV News they can only intercept a stolen vehicle with police help when they know the specific container the stolen car is in. In short, an AirTag notification isn't enough. This isn't the first vehicle taken from Roos. He owns a car dealership, and last summer, the locks on these gates were cut, and a truck was stolen from this lot. That truck was never recovered. This is part of an alarming trend. Thieves targeting high-end SUVs and trucks.
Organized crime is largely behind this. They're profiting it. It's not a victimless crime.
Equite Association says auto thefts have increased sharply since 2021. In Ontario, up 48.2%. Quebec, up 57.9%. Atlantic Canada, up 34%. And in Western Canada, up 5.5%.
There's so many stolen vehicles, especially in Ontario and Quebec right now. We're working with law enforcement on this very issue.
A national auto theft summit is happening this week, but the opposition is calling on the federal government to do more.
We will fire useless management consultants at CBSA and use the $165 million we will save across the department to put it into frontline port security.
Meanwhile, Bruce is not optimistic.
Bottom line, I want my truck back. We know where it is. Just want someone to walk in there and I want my truck back.
Jackie Perez, CTV News.
Coming up on CTV News, a country star's life cut short by cancer. Remembering singer-songwriter Toby Keith, who died surrounded by family at age 62.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, door-to-door sales are illegal in Ontario, but some companies are still pitching rental contracts for furnaces and water softeners. An Oshawa senior says she signed a contract hoping to save money, and she now has a lien on her home. I'll have my reports just ahead.
The above seasonal temperature trend is not going anywhere. By the time we head in towards the end of the week, we could set a brand new daytime high record. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast showing you just how warm it's likely to get and some active weather on the way. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Door-to-door sales were banned in Ontario almost 6 years ago, but some companies are still trying to find ways to get you to sign rental contracts.
You could get a phone call or answer an ad on social media that is promising savings, but be careful letting a salesperson into your home. Here's Pat Foran and a consumer alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle. And Nathan, an Oshawa senior got a knock on her door last summer. A salesperson said she could get government grants by installing new equipment, but the rebates never came. She now has a lien on her house and monthly payments for the next 15 years. It was in June of last year when someone came and knocked on the door of Helen Hadwin in Oshawa. A salesperson told Hadwin if she installed a water softener and a HEPA filter, she would receive government rebates and over time should save money.
It wasn't something I wanted, but he described it and talked me into it.
Hadwin says the equipment was installed, but she was not provided with any paperwork. The contract was eventually sent to her, and she was shocked when she received it.
They mailed it to me, and I read how much it was, and I just about had a heart attack because I was not expecting that kind of money.
The Simply Group loan agreement is for $18,000 amortized over 15 years. At almost 12% interest, a total over the life of the contract is almost $40,000.
Your mother's retired, but this says she has a job?
This says she has a job.
Helen's daughter, Willow Parker, says her mother did not fill out the loan agreement. She also discovered there's a lien on her mother's house.
And she's going to be stuck with a house she can't get rid of because they've got a lien on it for $18,000 for this water softener.
Parker feels her mother was misled and wants her out of the contract.
It's $3,000 worth of equipment. There's no way it should cost her $40,000 in the end.
CTV News reached out to Simply Group and a spokesperson for Finance had said in a statement. Finance had recently completed the acquisition of Simply Group Financial Corporation. We pride ourselves in our customer-first approach. We have contacted the client and resolved the matter to her satisfaction. The lien has now been removed from Hadwin's home, and she's been completely released from the contract, which was great news for her.
I'm feeling a little better now that the lien is off my house.
Thanks, CTV. We appreciate you for helping us out.
Greatly appreciated.
And because door-to-door sales are banned in Ontario, some companies are advertising on social media or calling to offer rebates. If you invite a company to come to your home, it's not considered a door-to-door sale and you can be held to the contract. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Visitors to the Oregon Zoo are getting more of a chance now to see their newest attraction.
So lucky to see the baby.
Oh, hello. This calf is the zoo's tiniest rhinoceros, and it has started venturing outside for walks. Veterinary staff have confirmed the 2-month-old is a boy. He was born in December at around 45 kilograms and now weighs about 102. The eastern subspecies of black rhino is considered critically endangered. So this youngster's arrival is a big deal. We love baby rhinos here at CTV, and we also love sunshine, don't we?
Yeah, and it just seems like we're getting more and more of it every day, and the highs are just climbing.
And I've seen live shots from areas from Oshawa, from the downtown core. It looks like spring. It really, really does. But we're not there yet. We're still into the winter season, and we're not done with the wintry weather, but for now, we're still holding on to a ton of warmth, and there's rain in the long-range forecast, not so much in the way of snow. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Lots of sunshine from start to finish today, and we've held on to some of that warmth as we step into the second half of our day. We're sitting at 0 here in the city, the same through Trenton. We're at 2 in Windsor. Even for our friends up in Moosonee and Thunder Bay, they're all sitting at 2 degrees. This warmth is going to stay with us as we head throughout the week, and it only gets nicer. We could even be record-breaking by the time we get in towards Friday. But for now, we're going to see -3 tonight. It'll feel like -5. Still cooler areas east of us, say through Peterborough, Bancroft, Orillia, Kingston. They're all holding on to just that little bit of an extra wind chill. Heading into the day tomorrow, a decent amount of sunshine, variable cloudiness throughout the day, but overall another beautiful one. And above seasonal 4 for us. The norm is -2. Everybody is going to be seeing the warmth. London will be at 6, Waterloo at 5. It is going to be another really beautiful day. There is a bit of a low making its way into the province, but it will stay north of us. This is the first of 2 rounds of active weather as we get ready to round out the week. As we head into the day tomorrow, though, high pressure prevails. A decently sunny day. A few more like light clouds out there, but overall really comfortable. We head through our night into the start of the day tomorrow. Still lots of sunshine out there. That passing weather stays far north of us. We get through the end of the day Wednesday comfortably. Thursday, more cloud cover rolls in early in the day. Still a few peaks of sunshine. It really isn't until we get through to the evening. So we get morning commute, evening commute out of the way, no active weather. But as we head through the overnight, we're watching for rain and the risk of embedded thunderstorms heavier down towards Hamilton and Niagara, but we'll see it here in the city as well. And then as we head into the day on Friday, we're looking at scattered showers. So keep the umbrella handy. Not a washout of a day, but it's as we head in towards our Friday that we could reach up to 11 degrees. Right now, the model's really unsettled as to how warm it's going to get, but regardless, between 9 and 11 degrees. If we get past 10.6, we set a brand new record. Getting into the day, though, tomorrow through our Thursday, really comfortable, lots of sunshine. Saturday and Sunday, after we get through that rain on Friday, it stays a little bit warmer. We start to see temperatures closer to seasonal, but still not quite there. Nathan.
All right, thank you, Jess. Also tonight, sunny, stormy, cold, or scorching heat. He goes on a run day after day, year after year. Meet the man who's on an impressive streak, running because he can.
A trial project at Vaughan Hospital is showing great results at moving patients out of ICU.
And into a separate specialized unit. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
The intensive care unit at Vaughan Hospital used to see a segment of patients who spent long periods there because they needed extra ventilatory care.
They could be in ICU for weeks and sometimes months in some cases.
Post-pandemic, we started to see an increase of patients that were requiring a little bit extra time getting off ventilators, some more rehab. So this program, in essence, came and was developed to help those patients finish the transition in critical care and hopefully get them home.
12 beds were set aside for the long stay patients, where they would get specialized care from workers with intensive care training, but they would also get additional support like rehab.
So all our nurses, physiotherapists, physicians, all of our allied health are intensive care trained. It's all very structured, but also personalized to their unique needs. If patients do have setbacks in their recovery process, we can manage them right where they are.
Jack Keys recently visited to thank hospital staff, and his family says the switch from ICU to the long stay unit especially helped him.
They do so good for the people. Yeah. Like they were always in there and helping. Like they had them on breathing things. They said, okay, you're off the ventilator, so you can breathe on your own.
A lot of walking, they walked with me, they wouldn't let me really go by myself, but they would walk with me around the hall and around the nurses' station and back to my room.
And other patients benefit too.
We're actually giving about 2 to 3 beds back to actually the critical care units, because what we're doing is now moving these patients who would have been in critical care.
The long stay program is in the 3rd year of a 3-year pilot project, after which it will be evaluated. Samantha McLaughlin says Vaughan and Michael Garron Hospital, which have both been testing long stay programs, are both showing such great results it will likely continue. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The country music world is mourning the loss of one of its own.
Singer-songwriter Toby Keith has passed away. CTV's Heather Wright has a look at the career of one of the genre's most successful artists.
I should have been a cowboy.
Toby Keith's debut single, Should Have Been a Cowboy, catapulted him to fame, quickly hitting #1 on the country charts, launching what would become one of the most successful country music careers of all time.
How do you like me now?
Born in Oklahoma, Keith worked in the oil fields before becoming a singer, writing songs about life in working-class America. Following the September 11th attacks, Keith released Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, a song both beloved and controversial. It was criticized as pandering to people's worst instincts following 9/11, but the song launched an enduring partnership with the U.S. forces. Keith performed for troops overseas 11 times. Outspoken and often brash, Keith says he was politically independent, performing for U.S. Presidents Bush, Obama, and Trump, one of the few people to play at Trump's inauguration after many artists bowed out. Toby Keith was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2015 and honored with the BMI Icon Award in 2022, just a few months after he was diagnosed with stomach cancer.
This is a roller coaster, and it takes a little while to get your brain wrapped around it. And then you get to a point where you just say, hey, this is what I do, and you can't let it define, your future.
Keith passed away yesterday, surrounded by his family, according to a statement on his website, which says he fought his fight with grace and courage. Toby Keith was 62.
Well, the headliner of this weekend's Super Bowl halftime show is coming to Toronto. Usher is going to play Scotiabank Arena on September 2nd and 3rd. The shows are part of a 24-city North American tour that begins August 20th in Washington, D.C. The R&B pop icon releases his first solo album in 8 years on Friday. And there's another big concert announcement tonight.
If I get jealous, I can't help it. I want every bit of you. I guess I'm selfish.
Justin Timberlake is also playing Scotiabank Arena. He'll be there October 17th on the second leg of his world tour. It begins April 29th in Vancouver. Timberlake is touring in support of his new album, Everything I Thought It Was to Be. It will be released March 15th.
Meanwhile, the Juno Award nominees were announced today, and a singer-songwriter from Montreal is leading the pack.
You're like a zombie, I'll die at the party. Yeah, you'll find my body fully covered in confetti.
Charlotte Cardin has received 6 nods, including Album, Artist, and Single of the Year for her track Confetti. The pop star already has 4 Junos to her name. Other major contenders include Toronto R&B singer Daniel Caesar and Ottawa-born Nicolas Durocher. The Junos will be held March 24th in Halifax. Nelly Furtado is hosting.
After the break, Toronto home sales jump in January. We'll tell you by how much compared to a year ago and what's happening with house prices.
On the next CP24 Breakfast,
we get a visit from Toronto's own Flavia Abadia, the only woman to DJ an entire Raptors game.
CP24 Breakfast up first at 5:30.
We had yet another warm and sunny day to round out our Tuesday thanks to high pressure sticking around. Temperatures will continue to rise as we head into the end of the week, reaching close to a record set in 1938. I'll have your forecast details just ahead.
The homicide unit has been engaged, so the deaths are considered suspicious.
Updating our top stories, York Regional Police are investigating after 2 people were found dead in a Richmond Hill home yesterday morning. Police have not released a cause of death, but say the incident is believed to be isolated.
It's still early in the investigation. We're making attempts to try to determine if there is a direct connection in relation to the homicide itself.
Police are investigating a fatal shooting in the city's West End early this morning. It happened shortly before 2 near Bloor and Lansdowne. A man in his 20s was rushed to hospital where he later died. Another man also went to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are trying to determine if both men are connected to the same scene.
It targets the most vulnerable people in society, panhandlers, people just begging for change.
A constitutional challenge has been launched against a provincial law which restricts panhandling in many public places. Critics argue the law unfairly targets some of society's most vulnerable people.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
In business, the head of the Bank of Canada is defending his decision to hold interest rates in January. Tiff Macklem says the central bank wants to wait a little longer to make sure inflation is coming down before committing to cuts. With more, here's Jacqueline Hansen from BNN Bloomberg.
The head of the Bank of Canada says in hindsight, they could have started withdrawing stimulus sooner. In a speech in Montreal today, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem reflected on the central bank's initial response to inflation, suggesting that the central bank probably could have started raising rates sooner. Still, he says monetary policy is working to get inflation down. It's just going to take more time. Macklem said getting inflation down from where it is right now in the mid-range of 3% to 2%, well, that will be slow and that there are risks for getting there still. Meanwhile, housing activity picked up in January in another major Canadian market, this time Toronto. Sales jumped almost 10% compared to December and almost 40% compared to last January. Despite that, prices are down compared to last month and compared to a year ago. The average price home in Toronto is now just over $1 million. The sales surge in Toronto follows jumps in Vancouver and Calgary as well. And while the government pushes for more homes to be built, new condo sales slumped in Toronto. Developers sold 40% fewer pre-construction condos in 2023 compared with 2022. Annual sales dropped below 13,000, well below the long-term trend of 25,000. And as sales slid, so did construction. Urban Nation says the number of new units that broke ground last year were down 45% from 2022 levels. Well, let's take a look at some of the closing market numbers for today. The Canadian dollar is trading higher by about a quarter of a cent to a bit above 74 cents U.S. West Texas Intermediate oil gained about 50 cents to roughly $73 U.S. a barrel. And our latest look at Western Canadian Select shows a gain of roughly 40 cents to $54 U.S. a barrel. As for stock markets, the TSX added 85 points to end the trading day at 20,957.74. That is the latest in business. I'm Jacqueline Hansen of BNN Bloomberg.
The federal government has announced a $99 million top-up to its housing benefit plan.
It helps make rent affordable by delivering rent support payments directly to Canadians. The Canada Housing Benefit was launched in 2020 and has helped many Canadians since then. And today's announcement means that by 2027, 2028, this benefit will have helped make rent more affordable for over 300,000 low-income households.
The additional money is intended for low earners who need help paying rent. There will also be $100 million in emergency winter funding to provide more shelter spaces for people experiencing homelessness.
Ottawa is also spending $5 million annually to help investigate rising grocery prices. The money will support 6 consumer advocacy groups tasked with looking into inflation and harmful business practices.
The projects that they will be undertaking are going to be all on grocery affordability. And they will tackle things, and I've been on this podium talking to you about 2 things that really concern me about shrinkflation and skimflation. You know, how can we've seen that and this is more and more prevalent in the marketplace. And I think it's more common than we would like to see and certainly believe. And therefore, they're going to help us to make sure that we inform consumer and we tackle that.
The minister says developing better consumer advocacy and research will help the government hold grocers and manufacturers more accountable.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Just ahead, we catch up with an Ontario man on an epic running streak. Once unable to run, he's back on his feet, and he's been lacing up every single day for years with no plans to stop.
Tonight, Ottawa promises millions to probe prices at grocery stores.
The root causes of inflation and the shrinkflation and greedflation have been well known.
The new plan to target food costs and the mixed reaction later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And special salutations to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Finally tonight, the Ontario man on a unique streak, running 1,500 days in a row.
And he hasn't missed a day, rain or shine, he is out there. As CTV's Heather Centerin tells us, it's more than physical health. He says hitting the pavement has helped him through some tough times.
Scott Thompson hits the ground running every single day.
I've run 1,500 days in a row now.
No matter the weather, you'll find Thompson making sure he reaches his 5-kilometer goal.
If it's extreme weather, say it's super hot, I tend to run like pre 7 a.m. In the winter, when it's like minus 20, I'm just out in the street.
Even when injured or ill, Thompson won't stop.
I've run with a sprained ankle. I've run with like a partially torn hamstring. My right foot currently is in a whole lot of pain. I just kind of push through.
Pushing through pain, physical or mental. In 2017, his mom passed away, so running has always been a form of therapy.
I focus on anything that's driving me crazy for the day, and I kind of just work things through. So I just like that release. By the time I'm done, I usually feel in a better mental health space.
The 1,500-day streak started in 2019 after Thompson suffered a brain hemorrhage and was hospitalized for over a month. Then he went right from recovery to running spree. his family supporting him every step of the way.
I know how hard it is on some days to get the run done, and I'm just really amazed that 4 years on, he's still going strong.
His most traveled trail is Kitchener's Iron Horse Trail, but the streak is travel-friendly.
We've gone to Mexico or New York City, just trying different paths to take, so it's a nice way to see the city.
The 43-year-old has no plans to stop pounding the pavement.
I hope he sticks with it because it would take some sort of catastrophe in our life to stop the streak at this point.
And I know that when I'm 80, I'll probably regret this to an extent, but you know, it's enjoyable.
Thompson says even when that time rolls around, the less than 30-minute daily commitment will be well worth it in the long run. Heather Senerin, CTV News, Kitchener.
An incredible story.
And I feel like this winter is definitely helping his streak going because it's been so mild, easy for runs.
He's not running through a lot of snowstorms
No.
as of late. And temperatures are going to stay really nice. So as he runs tomorrow and the next day and the next day, it will be quite mild, although we are watching for some active weather. Heading into the day tomorrow, a decent amount of sunshine out there, another really beautiful one. And throughout the end of the week, although we are watching for rain, it is going to be warm. 9 degrees on Friday, maybe even up to that 10, 11 degree mark. We'll watch for that. If we do reach that 10 degree mark, 10.6 to be exact, we break a record. So we'll keep a close eye on our temperatures throughout the end of the week. And a reminder, tonight's Lotto Max jackpot is an estimated $50 million plus 2 Max Millions.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.